So you're going to hear a lot of guys talk about how you need $2 to $3 million to retire, and that's fine if you're living in Los Angeles or New York City or another big city. But when you're in the rural areas, it's a little bit different. What you really need to figure out is a number that's personalized for you. And I'm going to show you how to do that using math and using an investment calculator. What I've learned from experience is once people retire, they're spending about 80% of what they were spending when they were working full time. You're at home more, you're not spending as much money on gas, food, and other expenses. So we'll talk about two things. We'll talk about how much you're living on, and then we'll talk about the safe withdrawal rate. So imagine you're spending about $5,000 a month, and let's say that $5,000 you're spending is after the mortgage. And the reason why we're going to leave the mortgage off for this example is because most people have the mortgage paid off by the time they retire. So let's say you're spending $5,000 a month. Let's look at 80% of that. That's $4,000. Now let's talk about the safe withdrawal rate, and we'll come back to the $4,000 in just a moment. In our grandparents' generation, the safe withdrawal rate was about 4%. In our parents' generation, it was 6%. But I've learned in our generation, it's about an 8%. What I mean by the safe withdrawal rate is as long as your portfolio is averaging more than 8%, and as long as you're not taking out more than 8% to live on each year, you'll never actually eat into the principal of your portfolios. An analogy I like to use is a snowball. So imagine a snowball is rolling down the hill and you're running along beside it and you're knocking off snow into your cup. Say it's picking up 10 to 12% of snow. As long as you're not raking off more than 8% of that snow into your cup, your snowball is going to continue growing. Now, there are mutual funds and exchange traded funds out there that over the last 10 years have averaged between 10 and 12% returns each year. Sure, on some years it averaged less than that, and on some years it averaged more than that. But over the last 10 years, what has the average return been? And any broker dealer you speak to, they're going to know which exchange traded funds and mutual funds have averaged these kinds of numbers. Now, your money doesn't have to be in a retirement portfolio. You can have a savings account, you can have Social Security to factor in. And the easiest way to figure out about how much you can expect to have in Social Security, just go to the Social Security website and put in your information. And it'll show you how much you can expect to get each month. So we're going to use my information here. When I change the 67 to 62 and calculate it, that gives us about $1,614 a month. So remember from earlier, 4,000 is 80% of 5,000. So we're going to subtract 1614 from the 4,000.
And that's $2,386.
So we're taking the 2386, multiplying that by 12 months out of the year, and that gives us $28,632. Now we divide that by 8%, which is the 8% safe withdrawal rate, and that gives us $357,900. That's the amount that we're going to be shooting for in our retirement portfolios. Or we can say that's how much we're going to aim for, whether it's in a retirement account or not a retirement account. But it's in portfolios, it's averaging 10 to 12% returns. So we're going to plug this into the investment calculator and figure out how much do we need to be contributing each month to reach $357,900. To make things easy, we're going to put our age at 55. We're going to change this to 62. And let's say we only have $50,000 in investments. We're going to contribute $100 a month with a 12% return, and that's what we've got so far. Now let's just go through here and play with some numbers and figure out what we need to do. We're going to change the 50,000 to 100,000. Now let's change our monthly contribution. And you just play with this until you figure it out. All right, so we're going to go to age 63 instead of 62, and we made it. So the final number is if you're age 55 and you work until you're 63, and you've got $100,000 saved up, all you have to do is contribute another $700 a month at a 12% return, and you've made your goal. So remember the goal was $357,900. Well, we surpassed that goal at $371,876. And right now you might be thinking, well, why about inflation? Well, in my experience, inflation fluctuates between 2 and 3%. And I revisit this calculator multiple times a year, but that's because I work in finance. I encourage people, you need to revisit these calculators every 2 to 3 years to keep yourself on track, because lifestyle changes and then numbers change. Now, there are investment firms that will tell you, oh, we have this fancy software and it factors in inflation for you and it really helps us. In my experience, they're going to keep it around 2 to 3%. In 2023, inflation was at 7%, and I know that the software engineers do not access that software and change the inflation rate to 7% for that year. So if someone tells you, oh, we have this fancy software that factors in inflation, just take that with a grain of salt. So as you can see, just because someone on the internet or some influencer says, oh, you need 2 million to retire, you need 3 million to retire, you can see once when you start playing with the numbers, you really just need to find something that's personalized for you. Well, I hope that was helpful, and if we're the kind of firm that you would like to work with, our contact information is in the body of the video.